Sketch made this. Hey everybody, Sketch here, and we're going to try something a little different today. Well, I say that, it's X-Files related, so I guess it's same old, and I could already see Major December rolling his eyes in resignation. But I don't know if you've noticed, it's been a pretty shitty year, and solitary quarantine may be slightly driving me slightly mad. So, I wanted to do something that I like. For the longest time, I have wanted to do an episode-by-episode review series of the X-Files, of every single episode, and talk about each season, and really in-depth retrospective kind of thing with, trivia and stuff like that. And I started collecting all these, X-Files related t-shirts with the intention of wearing a different one each season. Except that never happened. Just stuff kept getting in the way, and then the amount of stuff, research and that I knew I would have to put in and that, and I started scripting and it just never happened. But I will say, I totally stole this idea off Rabid Luigi after seeing his videos, tiering Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon and stuff. It's just with my health decline regarding my eyes, I'm not really able to do scripted videos anymore because I just can't read what I've got on the auto cue. So I saw Rabid Luigi's videos and I thought, you know what, and I know other people have been doing these kind of tiers. I thought, why not just tier the X-Files episode by episode? I could then kind of give my thoughts on them and stuff like that. And actually, for this video, I was inspired as well because I went back and watched a couple of season 1 episodes and was like, I really want to talk about these. So this seemed like a perfect format. So I thought, why not tier the X-Files? See if you like it. See if I enjoy making it. Maybe we'll do the rest of the seasons and maybe do a special tier the seasons all together kind of thing. So season 1, starting off, of course, with the pilot, which I'm sorry, without question, already has to go in the S rank, because you know what, this is an amazing episode that sets up your characters, your leads of Mulder and Scully, and unfortunately it does suffer with a lot of clunky exposition dialogue, that Carter is so good at. But it's just, I don't know how Scully knows half of this stuff she says she does about Mulder. But I think it's a really good episode that introduces to us to their dynamic and to their kind of polar opinions on subjects. The case actually falls as a backdrop to that. The case is very rushed because there's so much focus on the setting up of characters and stuff. Even I would love to know if they hadn't then gone with the myth arc, what would have happened with the Smoking Man, because he appears in this episode, which I think is impressive all on its own. But he's just this background character that never talks and that, and you're like, what would they have done with him? I just, the what ifs, what would have happened if Gillian hadn't got pregnant, if they hadn't had her character be abducted and stuff like that in season 2, and everything that came in season 2 mythology wise. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened, if anything. The backdrop, the case file, I hate that it starts out with this whole based on actual events, but it's this whole abduction story, which of course, you expect a show called The X-Files to start out with, aliens and all that. But there's so many questions at the end, which again I know is standard for the X-Files. But when you've got like, so the monkey that was in Ray Soames's coffin, like, what was the whole deal with that? And if it was a monkey that had been put there as part of the conspiracy or whatever, why was there an implant up its nose? Yeah, there's a lot of plot holes in this, but it's just a really good opener and strong for its time. And yeah, there's a couple of acting choices, like when Mulder suddenly, like when Scully's laying on the bed, Mulder just suddenly jumps up. He's like, "Listen to me, Scully," and I'm like, okay, calm down. I don't know where this came from. But no, otherwise, it's a really good, so I have to put it as S, because as openers go, as something that intrigues me, and is intriguing for anybody to continue watching the series, I think it's a really strong opener, and I always enjoy going back to it, and nothing beats that initial meeting of Mulder and Scully in the office, and nobody down here but the FBI's most unwanted and stuff. So yeah, that's why I have to put it, despite all its flaws, there's just some really good characterization and interactions in it. So but next up, another Carter script, Deep Throat, and Deep Throat again is actually a really strong episode. You know, you have the introduction of the season-long informant Deep Throat, played brilliantly by Jerry Hardin. You have a cameo by Seth Green back in, you know, before he was a big name in that. It's, again, it deals with aliens. A big recurring problem with this season, as you'll see as we go through the episodes, is there is a lot of very similar episodes. And I mean, it makes sense in this sense. You know, the first two episodes are, you know, deal with similar phenomenon and that, but at the same time, I think it then pigeonholes a show to then go, you know, if people are watching the first two episodes are alien related. So I do think there's a problem there, but I enjoy the storyline of like this Air Force base that's doing these covert ops, and dealing with like memory wiping and stuff like that. I love you know, Mulder going off on his own and Scully's exasperation and then trying to get him back, kind of thing. I like this weird journalist guy. There's actually just a lot about this episode that I really enjoy. It's not an episode that I go back to regularly. And, you know, it's weird because it is a bit dated. And it is, I feel like, I don't know what Deep Throat's doing in this. He's like warning, but not warning, and he's totally leading Mulder on and stuff like that. So it's just like, okay. So yeah. So, it's just, again, the case file kind of falls to the background because you've got this whole thing with the Buddha houses and stuff like that. And yeah, it just falls. I think something about the show is sometimes it struggles to balance. It's like A and B stories, and I mean, it serves a purpose. But again, I just feel as the show was finding its feet, it does falter at times with that storyline. But again, I just really enjoyed this. It has to go in S. They're not all going to be in S, I promise you. I promise you on that one. But for its time, this was just a strong first couple of episodes. And again, it suffers with issues, you know, that Carter is renowned for in his writing. But for his first two stories in this series, and again, characterization, these are really strong. I can't fault them. So yeah. But anyway, next up we've got Squeeze. I promise they're not all gonna be yes. But holy fuck, Squeeze is a good one. Let's be honest. When anybody talks about this show, one of the main Monster of the Week episodes anybody ever talks about is fucking Eugene Victor Toombs. And, just... this is so creepy, this episode. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves right, it's a Morgan Wong episode. More than likely somebody's going to correct me on that, but it's just creepy. And finally we have a non-alien episode. Doug Hutchison as Toombs is just perfect, because he seems like a creepy guy generally. No offense to him, but yeah, he's just really good in this episode. As this kind of, it's weird, he's like 100 odd years old, and yet there's something very childlike about him. But it's genuinely creepy. It's interesting to again, some really good characterization. You've got Scully. Fucking Donald Logan as Colton is just the worst. Colton is just this dickhead, and he's like, "Oh, you could not be Mrs. Spooky anymore," and all that stuff. Bear in mind, this is literally the third episode. But I love that Scully's like, "Oh, I get to work somewhere else," but then she shows that she understands. She doesn't agree with Mulder, but she gets what he's doing. So I think her defending him is really interesting. We have a nice interaction between her and him where Mulder acknowledges that, we're not always going to agree. We don't agree. We won't, but she respects the journey. And I think that's a really nice note. And yeah, again, I guess a lot of my favourite bits about this episode are the character interactions. But and just that scene of them down in the, the Toombs' nest. Of course, we also have the iconic scene of them coming in his apartment, which gets used for the opening credits. But it's just some good lines. Creepy as character who comes back later, and of course we'll talk about that when we get to Toombs. But really good, legendary Monster of the Week episode, and a strong one for their first proper Monster of the Week episode. So again, it's got to go in the S without question. It's just too good to not put in the S. Do I prefer that or Toombs? I think we'll think about that when I get to Toombs. But next up, we've got Conduit, and this is where things start to falter a little bit. It's not that Conduit's a bad episode, but again, we're going back to aliens or abductions or whatever happens with Ruby in this episode. And that's the thing. Whenever I think of this episode, I just think of Ruby. Ruby is like Sean out of fucking Heavy Rain or something. It's, I don't know. It just feels like a very dated episode. It's one that plods along. It's not that it's bad. It's just, and we start to see. It is a bit painful in hindsight. Seeing, Scully saying, stop chasing your sister and stuff like that, and making that connection between his drive to save people, especially young women, and his sister. Unfortunately, it becomes a recurring theme and a recurring argument that Scully uses to try and stop Mulder. And at some point, it feels like she's been a total bitch about it. This is the first episode where she really does it. It's kind of nice to see her go, kind of fight at the very beginning where she's debating whether to tell Blevins the story about, how much Mulder has divulged to her about the abduction of his sister and that. Blevins is just like, yeah, it's on file, whatever. It's his X-file. But it's nice to see Scully fight that kind of how honest Mulder's been with her kind of thing. But Ruby comes back at the end. Spoilers, sorry. Ruby comes back at the end after, this whole motorcycle group tears through the forest. And you're like, did she come back with the motorcycle group? Just what? Again, it feels rushed at the end. The main story seems to have been around Kevin, the little boy, who sees the binary code in the TV static. Which then opens the question, are the aliens communicating with him? But whereas the story seems to be, that should be the main kind of story, they're trying to hamper on about this Ruby thing to draw this connection to Mulder, and it just feels a bit forced. Some of the acting is a little hokey. I just don't feel it's anywhere near as good. Again, it's not a bad episode. Actually, a lot of these episodes that I've always considered to be, awful, and I've not watched as a result, I've actually enjoyed a lot more. Maybe because I've not watched them over and over again. But Conduit is not one of those ones I regularly go back to, and there's a good reason. So it's not bad, but I do think it's a bit middle of the road, and I'm gonna put it in B as a result. Next up, we have The Jersey Devil, which again is another weak episode that I rarely go back to. Guest starring Chuck Burks, actor Bill Dale in the intro, as the father that gets killed. This is an uncomfortable episode because essentially it makes out that it's this monster, but actually it's not a monster in the woods. It's just some feral woman and guy that are living out naturalists essentially in the woods. And its handling of homeless people is a little off. You have Scully going on a date with some rando guy from her godson, her friend Ellen's party. It's a really weird episode. And I think it was let's study the Jersey Devil mythos. And he just didn't know what to do with it. It just feels really clumsy. And it's weird because it's not an awful episode. It's just uncomfortable. And I'm sorry, that picture that picture of the female Jersey Devil that the guy does is just insulting. It's like, are you kidding me? It's just a clumsy episode. It shows Mulder's doggedness and determination to find out the truth, I guess. I think at some point he just wanted to piss off the police guy. I like this idea. It's a subject that's covered many times on the show, but this idea that the facade of the city has to stand up even if there's all these horrors going on. But I think it's been done way better in much better episodes, and do I prefer Jersey Devil over Conduit? Conduit is weird, because Conduit is definitely not one I would go back to too often. But Jersey Devil is an odd one, because actually, and I swear I remember enjoying this when it was first on back in the day. I don't know why. I don't know if just ignorance or, sensibilities are changed, or I've wizened up as I've grown older. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move Conduit down. No, I'm not. I am going to put Jersey Devil, though. It's weird. I would be more likely to watch Jersey Devil, but I think it has to go here, because it's got some good writing in it, but it's so blur. And yeah, I don't feel like it's very well. It's got some good action in it. It's got some good moments in it, and that's why I'm torn. I actually enjoy it. I have bits in it that I enjoy, and if you can turn your brain off, then it's perfect. But otherwise, it is clumsy, and I just think the whole storytelling, the basis of the plot is a bit insensitive and wrong. But anyway, next up we've got Shadows, which again, I don't know what it is. Some of these episodes, they always feel like they're filmed on, that film stock that was used for like the 1970s horror movies. It's got that weird, now obviously it's different now watching it on Blu-ray, which I did while watching this whole season to do this video. But you get these odd episodes, like Shadows. It always feels like it was, I don't know if it's just a different audio or what, but they always feel tackier than than some of the other ones. Shadows is the first of 2 or 3 episodes that deal with these ghosts that have unfinished business. So yeah, this is going to become a recurring theme. It's about the murder. It's another guy that gets murdered, who is then trying to protect. He's trying to protect this receptionist secretary, that he was really fatherly to. I thought back in the day that they were having some like wild sexual affair or something, but no, it was just that he was a father figure to her. But it's got some very not very well done effects. For the time, we're talking about 93, 94. So, and again, it was the first season, and the budget went to another episode in this season. It feels a bit, it struggles a bit at times with the effects. And actually, not a lot happens in this episode. You have this ghost story. And you have like the murder of these muggers at the beginning, and otherwise you're just seeing like Mulder and Scully get called in by these CIA NSA goons, and we have a really good interaction between Mulder and Scully regarding whether Mulder lied to these NSA goons. And he's like, I would never lie. I just, willfully held back information. That's always been a good line. I enjoy, there's some really good interactions between Mulder and Scully, just, skimming that line of protocol, which again is an issue that does come up later. Shadows is another one, because it's not one that I normally go to. But I actually, on this rewatch, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. but it is really basic. It's really basic. It's just really Blair. Like, not a lot happens. And I don't really feel all that invested in what happens. Like, the whole, again, the murder of the guy, it feels like they really struggle to like give a comeuppance to the guy that was a part of that, thing and that, and they offhandedly go, yeah, no, it's he's now has his unfinished business done and that, but yeah, it just feels it's not a bad episode. I actually really enjoyed it. I think I would have to put it on Conduit level though, because I did enjoy it, but it is a bit blur. But next up we have Ghost in the Machine. Oh yeah, this episode, which literally the only thing I ever remember about this episode is the guy living in the smart house before smart houses were like so much more. It's interesting watching some of these episodes to see how far technology has come. I mean, the phones are one thing, but seeing something where oh my god, I can't think, Brad Wilczek, is it? When he's talking about like Gates, Bill Gates and the smart houses and stuff, it's interesting to see that, to see how far that technology's come. But yeah, all I ever remember is the total 2001 ripoff was, why Brad? Why? And Scully in the air duct versus the fan, and then coming out like total trash. They're the main things I always remember about this episode. So you've got Jerry, Mulder's ex-partner, that we're randomly introduced to and who is swiftly killed off because he's a dick. It's interesting though because it does play on that whole Mulder being used for his intellect, and then just being, well, you're down in the basement. You don't need recognition. I need this recognition, so you do the work for me. It's a recurring theme, but this is the first episode we really get it, and I think it's interesting to see Scully react to how Mulder is trod on essentially for other people's gains. She kind of saw it in Squeeze, but I think she really gets a more sense of it in this episode. And, we'll come back to it later in Young at Heart. But, yeah, no, it's an interesting to see, because when she just thinks of kooky, spooky Mulder and stuff like that. But, yeah, no, so I think Jerry's an interesting character to add into the canon, despite the fact that he's a total knob. So the AI that doesn't want, like, I'm not clear on the point of what the AI was trying to do. The AI that then the government want to use for their benefit at the end. But basically, yeah, it goes on this killing spree. For some reason, hacks people's computers. I don't get why it hacks Scully's computer. I mean, other than find out maybe it knows her password from the X-Files game. If it knows her laptop password, that would be awesome, because never found that out, and apparently it was really important, so, anyway, yeah, no, it just, so this rogue AI, goes on this killing spree, and they're trying to solve the murders, and I think it was trying to protect Brad Wilczek. I don't know. It just feels. I always enjoyed this episode back in the day. Whenever I've watched it, I've always enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it watching it this time around. But I just feel, again, there's a lot of, and I don't know if it's just learning the pacing for this show or what, but it just feels like everything's just solved at the end. Ta-da! And that gets a little tiresome. I just feel as well it's just clumsy at times and stuff. But I still enjoy it. It's still, it's that kind of, along with some of these other episodes, especially the ones in the later season, it just gets very, like, if you turn your mind off, don't think too hard, it's entertaining, and this doesn't have the high level of entertainment that other episodes have got. But yeah, no, I mean, it's okay. It's just problematic. And I think I'm gonna have to put it in B as a result, because, like I say, I do enjoy it. It's just, yeah. But anyway, next up, without question, we know where this is gonna go. We know where this is gonna go. Ice. So, Ice. Total rip-off of The Thing. Don't care. It's amazing. It's brilliant. We've got Xander Berkeley being a douche. We've got Jeff Kober turning up as Bear, looking like is it Jim Morrison of the Doors. We've just got it's just a really fun, isolated. I think this episode may have been done because of budgets being pushed elsewhere, but it's really good. My brain has gone brain has gone blank. We've got this really good claustrophobic, starting out with 6 people, ending with the 4. We've got, like I say, Xander Berkeley, Felicity Huffman, and Mulder and Scully. It's an amazing test on Mulder and Scully's trust of each other. Scully's absolute desperation when she's trying to get Mulder to put the gun down, and she's like, "You might not be who you are," and you can just hear the emotion. Gillian acts that so well, and the face-off is so good, regardless of how frustrating Hodges is in that. How everybody works in this episode is so well. I do have an issue with scenes through windows where you can see. I assume it's supposed to be a blue screen that never got filled in. I don't know if you're supposed to be able to see the blizzard outside through these windows, but there's a lot of shots of windows in the background with just blue behind them, and I'm like, okay, did somebody forget to chroma key the effects in, or what? That I've always found distracting with this episode. You've got the God, I don't think it's David's dog Blue. I think it's the mother of Blue or something in this episode. It's just a really tense. This, we have this with this, Darkness Falls and Firewalker are like the trilogy of classic. We really didn't get any more of these type of episodes. Beyond, say, Firewalker, where just the claustrophobic. They tried it with Roadrunners in season 8, but we never really got these kind of episodes again. And Ice is just, again, I think this is a Morgan and Wong episode. It's just perfect in every way. I love it. I never tire of it. I love the characterization, interactions, without question. It's an S. Without question. It's just so good. And it's a good script. Everything about it I love. You just can't go wrong with a well-written, claustrophobic. The worm is terrifying, and that idea that they could have infected Mulder. And just even when they go to bed and they're like, the paranoid and that. Perfect episode. Next up, though, we have got... What have we got next? next up, we go from one of the best ever episodes to one of the worst ever episodes. If you ever wanted an episode where literally nothing happens, oh yeah, the space. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm in space. This is garbage. Poor Ed Lauter. I feel bad for guest starring in just this. I like Mulder's excitement at going to NASA and seeing a rocket take off. I love Scully's just like, yeah, great. Mulder's just like, and I never really got that, to be honest. Considering her dad, worked for the Navy and stuff, I would have thought she'd have more respect for people. I know it's not a military, thing or that, but as a scientist, I thought she would have had more interest in the workings of NASA and that, but apparently not. Apparently she would rather braid her hair. I love that, though, that characterization again. But yeah. I think this is another Carter script. And yeah, this just, no. It's so bad. Literally nothing happens. Like, apparently Ed Lauter's character saw the face of Mars on one space trip, and it haunted him since. And it has been causing him to sabotage future flights into space so that people leave the aliens alone. It's a thing? I don't know. I don't know. I think there could have been some promise there with the message it was trying to do, but it is so badly handled, and it is so boring. I sat and I tried. I've seen this episode before and I've not enjoyed it. I sat there this whole time knowing I was going to be reviewing it. I was like, right, I've got to think of something to say about it. I just can't. It's just so boring. Just nothing happens. So yeah, there's nothing to talk about. It's just avoid it. It's got to go here. If there was another rank, it would go even further down. Yeah, that's space. It's just, it exists, unfortunately. Next up though is Fallen Angel, where we get to meet Max Fennig for the first time, brilliantly played by Scott Bellis. I'm so glad we got Max back in the Tempus Fugit Termo games. Wow, that'd be amazing if Tempus Fugit was a game. Could we just have that on the PS4, like, now? I mean, we've got the PS5 coming out. Could we have that now? That would be amazing. Interactive episode. That'd be great. No, we got Max Fennig turning up for the first time. We got Marshall Bell being a total asshole military guy. And whenever I think of this episode, it just makes me think of the behind the scenes footage of the special effects, where they have this guy in this like orange, like, I don't know, like condom essentially, like some dinosaur like hopping around the woods. It's hilarious. Seriously, look up outtakes from Fallen Angel. Or I don't know what it's down as. It's on the DVDs as a special effects clip, I think, or something. But it's hilarious, and that's all I think about when I think of this episode. I did actually get to meet Marshall Bell at a convention, and I got to talk to him about this episode. And he said he had a lot of fun filming it. We get to see Scully doing her doctory stuff. She doesn't quite say it, but we get close to one of the early I'm a medical doctor. She's like, oh, I did my major in pathology or something, and the surgeon there is like, wait, you're a doctor. So the other thing about this episode, unfortunately, is it does have the other outtake that I always remember is Scully goes up. There's these soldiers that get irradiated, and I think actually it doesn't get treated as irradiation or that. But I think this is essentially our first intro to people getting like flash burnt. But yeah, they find these like charred, smoking bodies laying on the ground, and Scully actually goes up to them and is like, they're dead. And it's brilliant on the outtake because, of course, they piss themselves laughing. But yeah, you watch the episode and you're just like, no, seriously, did she actually just do that? But yeah, no. So you've got these. Again, it's dealing with aliens, but I think it's the show really struggling to know how to deal with this alien storyline and threat. Because you have, you know, Max has got the marks on him and stuff, and he's getting called to by the aliens. And I'm always baffled if they're trying to save. If the aliens are trying to... So all these aliens are flying above this one area at the end. If they're trying to save their buddy who crash landed, why are they bothered with Max? They've gone to a lot of effort to then go, oh, actually, so we'll take back our buddy and we'll take back lunch. It's like, what? So I feel bad for Max there, but I like, again, you've got Mulder looking out for Max and trying to protect him. We've got Mulder torture, where we've got Mulder getting his leg broke, even though he walks on it quite well when he leaves the warehouse. It's just a fun episode. It's got a lot of good acting in it. You got a little clip of Deep Throat, you know, kind of showing Mulder where to go, telling Mulder where to go and stuff. I just enjoy this episode. Is it perfect? No. And that's why I'm not sure whether to put it S or A. I really like this episode. Again, it's not one I necessarily think of off the bat. But it's a lot of fun. I'm going to put it in A. Because it's not one of my all-time favourite episodes. It's certainly not as strong as other ones in S. I'm kind of debating whether to put Deep Throat maybe down in A, to be honest. But I just really enjoy it. And I think actually it and Deep Throat have a lot in common, story plot-wise. And actually this Deep Throat, Fallen Angel, and EBE are the three whenever I'm thinking... And actually that's why there's a cut when I was talking about Deep Throat. Because I always get the storyline in these three muddled up. And then I end up completely forgetting, like, when I remember, like, say, these first two, and then I'm like, what the bloody hell happened in EBE? And we'll get to that when we talk about EBE. But, yeah, no, I think it's a lot of fun. Sets up a lot of things, including the enigmatic Dr. Scully, and the MF Luda pseudonym and stuff like that. I love all these little things that add to the characters, and I think it's, you know, it's not clunky in, say, the way that the dialogue in the pilot was. But again, that's the joy of having, say, a season where you can sprinkle that info in to embellish the characters. Whereas, say, the pilot, it had to establish something to entice people in. So, little extra things like this, even though sometimes they get forgotten and are used just for plot convenience, be that Mulder's apparent colourblindness or apparent fear of fire, which we'll get to. Yeah, it's just little things like that are fun, and I think this episode is a lot of fun. But next up, we have got Eve. Eve. Just what to do with you. So, Eve, yeah. Creepy little children. Always the best. If ever you wanted proof that just children are evil, then Eve is the episode. good acting from the twins that play the girls, the two little Eves, and I think generally I enjoy the story. It feels a little flat at times, but I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed the story. It's the closest, essentially, we really got to see Mulder and Scully be parents to children. So there's nothing like to fuel those fanfics of Mulder and Scully on a road trip and stopping off at stopping off at a station, a stop to get some sodas. I don't. The one thing that has always got me and annoyed me is why, even though they knew like foxglove was being used to poison people and that, I never got why when they take a sip of the diet sodas, they're like, sweet. Now, I'm sorry, if I had Diet Coke and it was sugary, I'd be like, there's something not quite right with this. Can we just talk about how bad Mulder and Scully are as investigators at that point? At no point, I mean, even early on in the episode, Scully was like, oh, I was worried that the children were to blame. And at no point does she go, suspicious. Fucking medical Dr. Scully doesn't figure out that the sugary Diet Coke is maybe not diet. I don't care about this whole, oh, are you sure that was the Diet Coke? Suspicious. Very suspicious. But no, I enjoy this episode a lot. Of course, the band Eve 6 got their name from this. I think it's fun as well to see, again, Deep Throat turning up to talk about the Litchfield Project, which again ties the show into real life experiments and stuff like that. But I mean, not real life, but you know what I mean. Just this real life experiments that have been done over the years and stuff. But it's weird. This episode, it's not an amazing episode. It's not a standout episode, but I've just always enjoyed it. Sometimes it can drag on a bit at parts. But no, I genuinely enjoy this one, and it creeps me out every time. So I think we gotta put it. There because it's just a lot of fun. But next up, we have got. What have we got next? Sorry, I struggle to see these icons. Next up, we've got fire. Talking of Mulder's random fear of fire that never, ever, ever gets mentioned again. We've got guest stars Amanda Pays, Mark Sheppard. I always love seeing Mark Sheppard in stuff, so I can't argue with that. I again met him at a convention, and I asked him, if and now I know David Duchovny actually got burnt in this episode and has a scar to this day. Just a little thing on his hand where he touches the wall in one of the scenes. But Mark Sheppard was saying about how, it was all real fire and stuff like that. So the effects in this are really well done. Just the way they're handled, practical and otherwise. And I enjoy Mark Sheppard. Now it's weird because when the first time I ever saw this episode, I didn't think Mark Sheppard was English. I thought he was putting on this accent because it just sounded awful at times. I don't know what's going on in it. So I don't know if it's just the audio or what, but I just enjoyed his character though, as this kind of cheeky, chappy asshole. Phoebe Green. Yes. Okay, Phoebe Green's an interesting character to add to Mulder's backstory, especially for his time at Oxford. There are things that don't quite add up, like having sex on Conan Doyle's tomb or whatever. But yeah, there's just I enjoy the bitterness, but like weird attraction that he still has towards her. Except then it turns out she's a total femme fatale, and unfortunately that does lead into the recurring problem on the show of women either being used to make Scully jealous, which happens in this episode, which is a little jarring at times. You're just like, oh, okay, is it really necessary for Scully to be all moody and jealous and stuff like that? And it gets a little annoying because it just doesn't feel natural all of the time. But or the other thing is women are used to be total femme fatales, and I think this episode particularly ticks both of those boxes. But at the same time, I get to see Scully being all medical doctor over Mulder and that, and Mulder wandering around in his kecks around Scully. So, yeah, no, it's an odd episode because I've always enjoyed it. It feels a little dated. I think the awful posh English voices get on my nose, up my nose, sorry, and on my nerves, if I can talk properly. But yeah, I just I enjoy some of the banter between Mulder and Scully and that. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun in that sense. But the rest of it feels quite forced at times. But otherwise, I just really enjoy it. I can't help it. It's not a perfect episode by any means. But again, I think we're gonna have to put it in the A slot because yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's good. It's got good effects. It's got good acting. It just has some problems, and it's not an automatic go-to episode. Unlike the next episode, which is where most of the budget went for in this season, for a few episodes around it, Beyond the Sea, because Brad Dourif was asked to be Luther Lee Boggs, except he wanted more money than they were offering, and more money than they could technically afford. But they shifted around some budgets, and they managed to. They knew that he was. They knew he was perfect for that character, and I can't argue with that. Brad Dourif, who I don't know, I just always think of Chucky from Child's Play. I know he's done loads of other roles in that, but yeah, if you ask me for a good, I think this is one of his best acting roles. He is amazing as this character of Luther Lee Boggs, who is either psychic or pretending to be psychic to dick with the FBI to try and get a deal to stop him going to the electric chair. It's really well acted, and unfortunately, this is, you know, we get to meet Don S. Davis as Pa Scully, who then dies, and of course Don S. Davis is an amazing actor, and I'm so glad they got him to be Mr. Scully, because of course he comes back later on in episodes. But yeah, it's so good to it's such an emotional, to see Scully so emotional, like her drive. And again, if anybody ever questioned her reaction in, say, Home Again, when her mum dies and her desire to get back to work, this episode shows, you know, her drive to just, her need to keep busy to distract her from just the worst pains. And Gillian works so well in this, and easily to this day, my favourite quote is in this episode when she bursts in to see Luther Lee Boggs and you set us up. She goes on a whole tirade about, you know, if Mulder dies 4 days from now, she'll be the one to pull the switch and gas Boggs out of his life for good. You son of a bitch! I actually, when I met Gillian Anderson, I got my big poster signed, and I actually got her to put, you son of a bitch. And she didn't ask why. And I was just like, in my head, I was just like, without question, if I could have, I would have got her to put that whole quote. It is easily my favourite quote out of the whole series. Just the force within which she delivers that. I wouldn't mess with Scully for the world after the line. It's just so well acted. The whole episode. We see some nice things, some really good interactions. We see Scully trying to open herself up to other possibilities, and Mulder being, why? Boggs is lying. I don't like his sudden change at the end where he's like, well, why won't you believe? It's like, hang on, you've been telling her off the whole sodding episode. And that does bug me about this episode. But otherwise, perfect episode. 100%. I don't have any issues besides that one little thing for this whole episode. Just everything's perfect about it. Writing, acting, just, yeah, excellent. And just entertainment factor. No matter how heartbreaking it is to see Scully suffer. Next up, though, we have got Gender Bender. Yeah. all this show, and how it deals with groups of people. Oh no, this is so. You know what? Back in the day, I enjoyed this episode. Again, nothing happens. Honestly, it's so stupid. And it kind of annoys me that they kind of used a kind of similar story at the start of Chimera when they're in season 7 when they're doing surveillance of that club, and they don't even think to mention this episode. But yes, it's attitudes between transgender, transvestite, LGBTQ plus sensibilities are just awful. It's funny to see Nick Lee play a different character. I always like to say he was actually cry-checking this episode, and he completely went to and he completely went to the dark side after it. And also, just its handling of the Amish is just so. I don't know if they were because the Amish or transgender people are so out there, they have to be aliens. That was just the most stupid twist ending. The whole episode is just awkward to watch. It's funny to see. Again, seeing Scully used as this sex victim, and the show's totally fine with it. Heavens forbid she should want sex because she wants sex. But if she's a victim of sex abuse, then that's fine. I am shocked that Chris Carter didn't write this one, to be honest. It feels like a Carter one. It's just so... yeah, no. Oh, God, it's not the worst episode ever. But it is uncomfortable to watch. And not a lot happens. And the stuff that does happen is just explained away with aliens, weirdos, things we don't understand. And that is treated in a bad way. And I can't accept that. It's awful. When you're ignorant in that, I would have put this up here easily. For a kid to watch this episode, I didn't get it. I was just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, no, it has not aged well at all. So I'm gonna have to put it here. But next up, we have got, when we can move away from that uncomfortableness, Young at Heart. Now, Young at Heart's an odd one, because when I think of it, I think of an episode that I don't think much about or like. And yet when I watched it, I actually enjoy it. We have some Mulder angst. We get, again, some background to his past with the Violent Crimes Unit. and his profiling. We don't really get much profiling in these early seasons. Not as much as we would like. I think it really hits ahead where we get to say grotesque. But this episode is a nice nod to the fact that he was a profiler. And, you know, the only other thing we really knew before was the whole Monty Props thing. So to have this character, it's a nice addition, again, to Mulder's backstory and his building blocks as a character. Again, this feels like something that would have come up later on, but, you know, the show is not known for its continuity, so unfortunately we'll just sweep it under the rug. But, and I feel like, you know, especially with the death of Jerry, that now, then losing Reggie in this one would be a big deal. Apparently not. It's not a long-lasting thing. But it's nice to see, again, some of the banter between Mulder and Scully about, you know, where Mulder was headed for and stuff like that. And just seeing his past and seeing Reggie impart that information to Scully, and Mulder's guilt at trying to protect everybody. I mean, everybody generally, but certainly everybody that he cares about. I don't feel 100% like Ridley's experiments with the whole youth thing, and that was, again, not something, it was thrown in there, but, like, just ignored once, I can't even remember the guy's name. Oh my god. My brain has gone blank. What is the twat's name? The one who's the killer in this. When he gets taken down, it's just all forgot. Like, you see CSM, like, in the operating room when they're trying to save him and that at the end. Barnett, that's it. When they're trying to save Barnett at the end and that, you know, you see the salamander hand, which I thought was good makeup. But yeah, it's just, it feels like that's kind of swept under the rug. But I genuinely enjoy, like, the stress of Mulder trying to fight this criminal who he knows is the killer and stuff like that, and who's trying to fight his guilt over not shooting when he had the opportunity and stuff years ago, and the death of this other agent as a result. I just really enjoy the episode. It's not perfect by any means. Like I say, when I think about it, I always think, yeah, I don't have much of an opinion. But genuinely going back to it, I actually really enjoyed it. So, I think I'm going to put it on an A, because, yeah, it's just well done, and I like the depth of character development and stuff. Next up, we've got EBE, our introduction to the Lone Gunman, which is brilliant. This episode, as I said earlier, is one of those episodes that I easily get muddled up with Deep Throat and Fallen Angel. But I really enjoy, it's the episode that has Mulder and Scully in pursuit of this truck that might or might not have an alien inside it. I love the total distrust, how much Scully, once the paranoia kicks in to start with the microchipped pen, you know, that's oh my god, my brain is on blank, sorry, that is recording them and stuff like that. Her paranoia then is fun to see. And like I say, I love the introduction of the Lone Gunman. But also, there's interesting stuff here with the distrust that they have, thanks to Deep Throat. Deep Throat completely toying with them and, giving fake photos that then Scully's like, no, what? No. And Mulder just completely ignores her, and she's like, you are so stubborn, and saying that people are using his desire to believe against him. But the fact then that they go on this long, trek to chase down this truck when they realise that actually they had it right under their noses is really fun. And then Scully's like, fuck, I shouldn't have doubted him and stuff like that. He recognises, well, the photo that he was given by Deep Throat was false. And he's like, people are trying to get us off the trail of this. And then they just band together to hunt this truck down. And, they mislead people by taking flights in different directions and stuff like that. It's just so good in that sense. It's a real proper... it does make me think a little bit of Little Green Men, actually. But I just think it's... And again, for an early building block, I think it's a lot of fun. One, for their... I keep saying fun, but when I enjoy the episodes, they are genuine fun and a delight to watch. But the thing is with EBE is it's a really good episode to. It's entertaining. Again, I feel it's a very Mulder Scully centric episode that really deals with their trust. Building trust, over the course of this season, while outside forces try to absolutely rip them apart with distrust. I genuinely enjoyed this episode. I gotta put it in an A. It's not the best episode, but it was one of those episodes while I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I really like this one. So, even though I find it forgettable at times, there is a lot to like. But that's in a good contrast for Miracle Man, which I always think the worst of, but actually I enjoy... but not on the same level as, say, the S and A rank episodes. Miracle Man is it deals with... I thought Mulder actually was really surprisingly... considering how much of a dick he acts in all episodes that deal with religion usually, I thought this one he was actually really supportive, to be honest. But I do feel the use, though, of Mulder seeing Samantha, his sister, was a little clunkily handled and a little unnecessary. I know it was trying for this whole faith and, stuff like that thing, but I just felt it was a little clunkily handled at times. I enjoyed the young actor who played... oh god, my brain has gone blank for character names. The Miracle Man, basically the kid that can bring people back. I want to say Jacob, but I don't think it is. So I just enjoy this episode. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings about the fact that it was the disfigured guy that was killing people to try and discredit him. Because it's just like saying, it's like, I don't know, it just felt a bit clumsy, in that sense. But it's not a great episode, but I like it. I like it way more than I ever think I do. I'm gonna put it in this kind of B category. It's just, it's not high-end entertainment. It's a filler episode. And as a result, it feels like a filler episode that just plods along. But you've got that, and then you've got Shapes. Okay, because if ever there was an episode, we've been awful about the Amish and LGBTQ community. let's be awkwardly uncomfortable to watch about Native Americans. Wow, nothing happens in this episode, people, seriously. It's a werewolf story where the werewolf, like, barely appears. The original werewolf gets shot at the beginning of the episode, which we never see. And then there's a werewolf at the end. And in between there's a lot of awkward Native Americans being awful. And except for that one Native American, the old guy. Otherwise, everybody was awful in this episode. There was an attempt to have a Native American cremation. I don't know. It did not handle. I don't know. It was just, it was clumsily written. I don't know why the sheriff was such an asshole. He wasn't just an asshole to, like, Mulder and Scully. He was an asshole to his own community. It was just like, how was this guy voted to be sheriff? This episode is just, nothing happens. Honestly, it's not as bad as, say, Space. So I'm gonna put it. No, actually, no. I am gonna put it with Space because nothing happens. It's just a waste of time, as filler episodes go. You couldn't get much worse than this. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's gonna have to go there. But from that, we move on to one of the best episodes, Darkness Falls. I mean, it's a Chris Carter script, so it's not the greatest, but it is a highly enjoyable episode. Again, as I said, it's up there with Ice, just for its claustrophobic, kind of paranoia, stress-inducing horror. When you're dealing with these bugs that make the dark seem like the worst thing on the planet. It is a little heavy-handed with its whole environmental message. I don't care. I love the episode. I enjoy the kind of stress between Mulder and Scully when they're arguing, but also when they're working together. I think it's what Mulder and Scully and Chris Carter as a result are good at doing, is just having showing their differences, but how they use their differences to work things out. It's a nice little trip to the forest, or not. I just love it. There's not much. It's just, it's a little clumsy with its special effects of the bugs, the glow in the dark bugs. When you watch, say, David and Gillian in this car, like, flapping their hands, and you have these animated little green bugs around them. It's a little dated in that sense. And like I say, some of the script can be a little clunky at times. But otherwise, I always enjoy sitting down to watch this episode. Every chance I get when I'm thinking about, say, season 1, if I'm like, oh, I want to watch episodes from season 1, I will be either Ice or Darkness Falls, without question. So, it's gotta go in S rank. Again, despite its flaws. And I think that's the surprising thing, looking at S. You've got so many Chris Carter episodes here. But they are definitely worth it. But an episode, and it's funny, you go from, say, one of the most awkward episodes like Shapes to Darkness Falls. You're like, how can you have those episodes back to back? It's like leveling out. Yeah, you got the lazy episode that nobody bothered writing anything for, and then you've got Darkness Falls, which feels like it was paid a lot more attention to. Next up, we got Born Again, which again is another one of those episodes with a unsettled ghost. I mean, I say it's an unsettled ghost. It's a little girl is born. It's a reincarnation story, which again steps on other toes. As a reincarnation, this girl is reincarnated as this cop who was killed. Doesn't sound like Shadows at all. Different profession, but same story. Who is trying to get payback and expose the people that killed him. I don't think much of this episode, to be honest, when I think about it. It's one of those middle-of-the-road filler episodes that I don't think much of. And when, say, somebody says, do you want to watch that episode? I'm like, no, not today. But actually, when I watch it, I'm actually pleasantly surprised and I enjoyed it. It does feel... Because at the end, so the ghost gets, like, his business finished, but then the little girl is just like a normal little girl. And I'm like, but wait, for however old she is, 8 years or something, she's been the reincarnation of this cop. So who is she if she's not the reincarnation of the cop anymore? But I guess that's just me thinking too hard. It is interesting to see actually how much of a dick Mulder can be when he's focused solely on a goal. His drive to get like to get this girl in the like therapy the hypnosis session is really awkward to watch, because you don't really think about, when you think about Mulder, yeah, you think of doggedness, but you don't think of just how sometimes just bullheaded and ignorant he can be while being desperate to get the truth. And I think just seeing, the fact that he doesn't care about this little girl at some point, and he's more focused on getting the truth, is uncomfortable, but it's a fact of his character. And I think seeing Scully get frustrated when she's just like, that may be true, but seriously, just stop, is interesting to see. But otherwise, it's not a bad episode. It's just a bit of it exists. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in the middle of the road. I'm going to be B. Okay, for some reason, I actually missed a couple episodes. I think I might have knocked the things and squidged them around. Next up, we've got Lazarus, which was after, like, Genderbender. Lazarus, again, is one of those episodes that I'm always like, oh, but actually I really enjoy. Again, it's another, it's not a ghost it is a ghost, but it's not a ghost. It's so this bank robber gets shot at the same time as this FBI agent, who apparently was Scully's boyfriend for a year back in the day. And both of them die on the table, but they manage to resurrect Jack Willis, the FBI agent. But actually, they don't resurrect him. It's actually the bank robber. It's the bank robber taking over Willis's body. Or not, perhaps, because then Jack has memories at the end. So maybe Jack didn't die? I don't know. I think they both came back into the same body, apparently. But predominantly, the whole point of the story is that the bank robber is in Jack's body. So we get to see some Mulder profiling. We get to see Scully being protective over her ex. We actually get a line as well that fascinated me. Because a lot of people always said, Scully's only interested in father figures and, mentors kind of thing. We saw it in Daniel Waterstone and stuff like that. These strong senior men kind of thing. But actually she says a line in this where she says that essentially Jack, the reason why they didn't work out was because Jack was married to the job. And you realise as she's talking, that actually there's a lot of qualities there about Mulder. So in a way, you're like, well, that's why Mulder and Scully didn't work out. But at the same time, you see why, a lot of people, I know people who are like, no, I think she'd be better off with Skinner. And that's, I would have shipped Scully and Skinner at some point, to be honest. But yeah, I think you see there why she was attracted to Mulder on some level. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting line. But actually, watching the episode, like I say, you get to see Mulder be worried about Scully. You get to see some profiling from Mulder. I just think it's an interesting episode. I just enjoy it. It's an episode. I always just think, oh no, that's that one with Scully's ex in, and I always think the worst of it as a result. But actually, I really like it. Would I say it's better than? I don't know. Part of me wants to put it on B, but to be honest, I really enjoyed it. So I think I would put it on A, to be honest. There's a lot of good acting in this. A lot of good scripts and interactions, to be honest. So yeah, I think I would put it on A, to be honest. It's not the worst, but yeah, it's a lot better than I ever think it is whenever I think about it. So, but another episode that we accidentally skipped is Tombs. The follow-up to Squeeze, where we get to see Eugene Victor Toombs come back and for whatever reason be released. Can we talk a moment about how Mulder and Scully always, for some reason, say something to stop the criminals from getting the worst sentences? We got this where we saw it in Horizon, where Scully said that they spoke about Donny Pfaster to stop him from getting the gas chamber. I'm like, why? Why would you ever do that? She attacked her. So yeah, unfortunately, yes, it is another episode where Scully gets attacked. No, it's not actually. She does quite well in this episode, to be honest. Mulder's the one who nearly dies in this one. It's because I was thinking of Squeeze for a moment there. Sorry, my brain went blank. I was thinking of Irresistible and then started thinking about Squeeze. So, but Tombs, I think it's on a level pegging with Squeeze, to be honest. I think it's an interesting follow-up to a classic episode. It's a good opportunity to kill the character off. We unfortunately get to see Doug Hutchison naked and covered in slime crawling through the air duct. My biggest gripe with this episode would be how quickly that shopping mall was built and the fact that the escalators were functional. But, I don't live in America. I don't know how quickly those things are built. So, but that would be my biggest gripe. But the interesting thing about this episode for me is that Scully just believes. Like, she's just like, yeah, no, totally. Toombs does this. He's the one. I mean, I guess, he did attack her, so, fuck him. But it's interesting that she's like, without question, she's trying to find the evidence to prove without question that he is the killer. So that's really interesting, especially, near the end of the season, to see. But I just think that's really fun to, I just enjoy all of the character interactions. We get our first introduction to Skinner, and it's a little odd because there's no, actual introduction to him. There's no explanation for why they've been moved from the oversight of Blevins to Skinner, and I don't know the whole hierarchy of the FBI or that, but I would have thought, say, a section chief would be more appropriate to be their boss than the assistant director, but I don't know. I guess it's just the actors, and I'm not going to complain. We get Mitch Pileggi, but I always found that a bit jarring. But it is interesting to see Scully actually stand up for Mulder. She really stands up for him and their investigative methods, and the fact that they can't always arrest the actual perpetrator when there's absolute, freaks and whatever out there doing the killing. Or, I don't know, maybe they're just the Amish taking off in their flying saucer. You can't arrest them. That would be appropriation, I guess. It's again, really good character interactions and that. Mulder saying, if you don't want to investigate this way because it's not by the book, then fine. But if you're doing it because you're scared of Skinner and all that, then don't do that. But I just really enjoy it. I think it's you could argue, it's just a follow-up, it's a continuation, so it's not as original as, say, as Squeeze. But I really enjoy it as an episode. It does plod a little at times, which kind of makes me want to put it in A. But no, I'm going to have to put it up in S, because it's just genuinely entertaining episode. Whereas Roland is how to make fun of disabled people. Oh my god, this season, it's like, you know what? We're going to be a South Park and we're going to make fun of these people and these people and these people. I will say this is like the first thing getting to see oh god, Zelchvik or something. I can't remember the actor's name. Fuck. It's so funny to see him in this and then think of him in stuff like Madam Secretary or all the other things I've seen him in since. To think this is like the first thing I ever saw him in is interesting. I think they said, I can't remember what they said in, they were talking about him in the commentary. I think he does well playing the character of Roland. I just think the episode itself is pointless and awkwardly presented, and yeah, I just think the X-File itself is it's just uncomfortable to watch. And again, it's like it's a ghost, but it's not a ghost working through Roland. It's the frozen brain of his twin brother working through him. So yeah, I don't know. This is an odd episode, seriously. I always remember enjoying it. But again, it's one of those episodes that you're like, when you're young and naive and ignorant, it's amazing. Then when you think about it too much, it's like, oh. It's not the worst episode. It's just uncomfortable. I'm going to put it here. On C, just because it's not the most awful tripe. I actually enjoy some of the interactions in this episode, but yeah, it's not a good episode. It's a waste of time, to be honest. And it's one of those episodes. These episodes, actually, there's a surprising there's a lot of mediocrity here. That I still find enjoyable. But it's these kind of episodes that really get me down about this season. But at least we started on a strong note, and at least we end on a strong note. Because the Erlenmeyer Flask is a really good episode. I think it's one of the first, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it's like the first episode directed by Rob Bowman, and you can tell the action in this episode. It starts out with a car chase, just balls to the wall, is just like starts out there. We have a start in a way to the mythology, with the green blood, the acidic blood that burns eyes. We have, and this, back in the day, this was a massive thing, to kill off a supporting character, in this case Deep Throat, was shocking. Unfortunately, we live in an age post Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and stuff where main characters get killed off all the time. But back then, it just wasn't heard of. So that was always shocking. The odd thing about this episode as well that always stands out is the fact that Scully is just like, oh wow, Mulder might be right. What the fuck? So, you know, she comes, and it's annoying in a way because we see this time and time over the series where Scully will get near the end of the season and she'll be like, oh fuck yeah, I should really be more supportive of Mulder. Mulder's actually right a lot. And then the first episode of the next season, she resets. But in this episode, she sees a lot that makes her believe. Unfortunately, it does contradict stuff later on, where, because we're led to believe that Sakaar is this like human alien hybrid and like the first, and yet later on it kind of gets retconned where Cassandra Spender is the first human alien hybrid. But I think this was an interesting kind of bounce point, like just for introducing these elements of, you got the crew cut man, you've got your green acidic toxic blood. There are pieces here that yes get sorted, I think, once they really started to work on the mythology, but it's nice to see those pieces here. Again, I really enjoy the interactions with Mulder and Scully. I do always get annoyed by the one line Deep Throat says to, is like, Miss Scully, we met ever so briefly, and I'm like, when? Did I miss something? I don't know if he's talking about in, say, EBE at the end when Mulder goes to see, when they break into the government base or what, but yeah, that always bugged me, and I'm like, wait, did I miss something? But it's an excellent episode, character-wise, story-wise, and stuff like that. I can't fault it. We started off strong, and we ended strong, and it's kind of, I think it's, if it had been the final ever episode, it would have been a good episode. I mean, it would have left us wanting more than that. But had the show not been picked up for more seasons, I think the earlier Maya Flask would have been a really good. It ends with the X-Files being closed for the first time. I think is a really good end point for season 1, and a good springboard for the rest of the show. But yeah, no, that's season 1. It's weird when I think of season 1. I don't necessarily think of the strongest season. But looking at these episodes, there are a lot more better episodes than I ever acknowledge. I think episodes like Space or Shapes always bring the season down for me. And it's weird seeing these episodes, because when I ever think of the season, I always think of those episodes in the back end, and yet a lot of these are in the early half. So I think maybe they were just the show finding its way. I don't know. I do struggle, although, as I said, this season does have a lot of the recurring storylines. Reincarnation and ghosts with an axe to grind, and alien abduction stories. And unfortunately then pigeonholes people into thinking that that's all the show is about, when actually that's not all it's about. And I think that's why when people just call it a sci-fi show, I'm like, actually it's like a sci-fi drama show for me. But yeah, season 1 is way better than I give it credit for. There's a lot more, and for a show finding its way, I think it, and especially like in the early 90s, for a genre show, I think it did really well, and it's maiden season. And for that, I can't fault it. I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's not my favourite season by any means, but I think it's going to be interesting to think back on, say, this list, and then think about it in where I would rate season one compared to other seasons. But that's been this video. That's been Tearing the X-Files season one. I did waffle on a lot. My brain unfortunately did go blank on a lot of stuff. I watched this season a couple weeks or so ago, with the intention on making this video straight after, but unfortunately it kept getting pushed back and stuff. Yeah, my brain has gone a little blank, and what I remember about stuff is hit and miss. But thank you so much for watching. Please share your thoughts. Share your favourite episodes. I'm really curious if you like if you too think about Born Again and like, what's that episode, and then you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, actually it wasn't that bad. Or Lazarus, or if you like some of the ones that I've put in the worst. I do wish I'd given like an F rank or that, because being at D isn't bad enough, kind of thing, a rating. Unfortunately, this was created by somebody else, so I've just gone by what they created. But thank you so much for watching. Please do share your thoughts, especially your thoughts on season one generally, and please share your thoughts whether you reckon I should continue with the rest of the seasons. I enjoyed I'd like to do it a bit more structured maybe, and do the video straight after I've watched it. Also, I watched these episodes out of order completely, because I started off with a random episode, like a random disc, random episode, and just ended up kind of going backwards through the discs instead of just starting at the pilot. So I think that doesn't help. So I will, if I'm going to do more, I will actually start from the beginning of the season through to the end, in chronological order. I think that will be the fun way as well to watch how the partnership grows and stuff like that. But yeah, please share your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching and bearing with my waffling. And please take care, stay safe, and I'll see you somewhere down the line.